Parcels represent legal boundaries, and there are specific ways that their geometry must be labeled with necessary information. This typically occurs in the form of bearings, distances, and curve data. In this video, you'll learn how to create labels to display this kind of information. Before we get started, I want to show you a couple of different ways that you can launch the labeling commands in Civil 3D, and this is true of any type of object. The first way I'll show you is to use the contextual ribbon. So I'll go ahead and click a parcel object, and on the Parcels Ribbon tab, there's an Add Labels dropdown. I can click that and choose from one of the choices available for labeling for that particular object type. Another way I can do it is to start by clicking the Annotate tab of the ribbon, and here you'll see again an Add Labels dropdown. But this time there are two choices. You can either click the top half of the button, which brings up the Add Labels dialog, which can be used for any labeling purpose, or you can use the bottom half of the button, which brings up a menu, and from there you can go to the type of object that you're labeling and then one of the labeling choices in there. The advantage to either using the contextual approach or using this bottom half where you're going to a specific object type is that you can assign default labels for different types of objects in Civil 3D. So you can say that your default parcel line label is this, and your default alignment label is this. So that's the advantage, and that can save you a little bit of time if you're using the same kinds of labels pretty regularly. In my experience, and it is my preference, I like to call up the generic Add Labels dialog. It's just consistent, it's always the same. I do have to make a few other choices as far as choosing the feature, in this case parcel, and then choosing the type of label that I want and possibly the style. So it's a couple of extra clicks, but it's always the same. I don't have to look and check and see what defaults have been selected. And I also find that I'm always using, or often using, so many different styles of labels that having a default really doesn't help me because I almost always am changing it to something else. So this dialog kind of reminds me that styles are important and I need to pick the right kinds of styles to get my labels to look the way they want to. On the other hand, it's really easy to change them, and in fact in this exercise we're going to ignore styles, and in an upcoming video we'll look at how to change those styles to get the look and display the information that you want. But let's get back to just adding the labels themselves. So I'm going to close this dialog and kind of start over. I'll launch the Add Labels command. My feature type that I'm labeling is a parcel. And from here I've got a couple of different choices. Right now we're going to focus on the first two, single segment and multiple segment. And frankly, I don't believe that you'll use these other options very often. So let's look at single segment and multiple segment. I'll start with single segment, and you'll also notice that I have a style assigned to my line labels and to my curve labels. So whenever I click the Add button, if I click on a line, it's going to apply this label style. If I click on a curve, it's going to apply this one. So I'll go ahead and click Add, and then choose my first line. And let's just zoom in and choose this line right here. So for this particular style, you'll notice it's named bearing over distance. The bearing is on top of the line and the distance is beneath. Let's pick a curve and see what happens. I'm going to pick this curve right here. Notice that when I hover over the line, it lights up much more than just that one curve. That's okay. Civil 3D is smart enough to know that there is a specific curve within the confines of this parcel, and that's the one it's going to label. So there you can see a curve label. In this particular label style, we see the delta represented by the triangle, the length of the curve, which is a length along its curvature, not in a straight line, and also the radius of the curve, which you can see is 100 feet. So that's adding one label at a time. Is there a faster way? Obviously, we've got a lot of labels to create in this drawing. Can we get through it more quickly? We can use the multiple segment label type. So the way that works is after selecting multiple segment, if I click the Add button, I can click this time any of the area labels of a parcel. So remember, picking the area label is kind of like picking the entire parcel. So I'll click this area label, and it's going to ask me, how do you want to display the bearings for this parcel, clockwise or counterclockwise? And that controls, if you think about it, You could label a line as a northeast bearing or a southwest bearing. They're kind of the same in opposite directions. So this will determine whether it's northeast or southwest, using that example as it works its way around the parcel. Let's press enter to accept clockwise as the default and take a look at what happened. So it labeled every segment of this parcel. And by the way, we use the word segment to refer to either a line or a curve in a parcel. And then if we want to talk about individual types, then we say line or curve. But you can see we've got a series of line and curve labels here. Here's a line label, and look how it broke up each curve label into its individual segments. Another line label here, and then one here. So it labeled all of them at once. So if I pick the parcel next to it, is it going to double up this label? Let's find out. I'll click that area label, hit enter for clockwise, and look at that. It's smart enough to know that this label is already there and that it shouldn't double that up and superimpose another label. So with this approach, we can go around and make pretty quick work of labeling all of the segment labels, labeling all of the parcel segments in the drawing. Now, one thing you'll notice as we add these, it's getting a bit cluttered, and we've got, lines passing through text, and that's not very good. Here we've got another kind of a messy area. So we're going to have some work to do after we create all these labels to make things look a little neater and more readable, but we'll get to that. So there you have it. That's how to create segment labels. Keep watching and you'll learn some techniques on how to get them better organized and arranged so that you can increase the quality and readability of your drawing.